My son would say that is a sick beat.
That's dope.
It's dope. So, all right, well, welcome. I'm Bill Bronson, marketing guru extraordinaire, with my trusty sidekick, Jeffrey Cooperstein, sports podcasting legend.
Whoa, legend.
Legend.
Okay.
And this is Squirrel Marketing, where we talk about everything marketing and then squirrel off in all directions. So last time we talked about strategic planning, we talked about the SWOT analysis, and we've kind of been talking about involving stakeholders, involving everybody involved in your business or anyone affected by what you do. And so today I kind of wanted to talk about the 7S model. I know there's a lot of little acronyms and things, but the 7S model is interesting, and it is arguably the main foundation for any successful business. So I thought it deserved some time. So the 7S model, what it basically is, it's a set of core competencies. And these are areas of the business that need to be explored. They need to all have a role. They all need to have some equal effort put into them.
And they all work together.
They all work together. All of them have overlap. And so what's interesting about these, it's a lot like a friend of mine told me on this SEO, search engine optimization model. It's a 3-staged model.
Yep.
He calls it a 3-legged stool. And if any one part is lacking, you're going to fall over, right? Well, this 7S model is kind of like that. If any one of these is lacking, you're going to be lopsided.
No, I've never seen a 7-legged stool before.
7-legged stool. That would be for a very heavy individual.
Yeah.
Maybe what, King Henry?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. 7-legged stool. I'm a woodworker. Maybe I could make one.
Yeah, I'm interested.
I call it the 7S stool. But yeah, so the 7S model, 7 S's, stands for strategy, systems, structure, skills, style, staffing, and shared values. And you can Google it. This is ready knowledge. But basically, let's just kind of go over what they all mean, and then we'll talk about how they work together and how they fit into the strategic planning that we talked about. So the strategy, of course, that's kind of self-explanatory.
That's kind of what we've been talking about. Just that's really everything that goes into.
You know what's funny about that? What's funny about strategy is a lot of people say the word because it sounds cool.
Right, strategic.
Strategic planning. What are you doing? I'm formulating a strategic plan. Oh, yeah, what is your strategic plan? Well, I'm
strategizing it.
I'm strategizing it. You can't really explain what it means.
Yeah.
Strategy is just your game plan for how to get from A to B. How are you going to get from now to the future? From now to your goal. Strategy is actually mapping out what to do to get there. So strategy is not your vision. Strategy is
your roadmap.
Your roadmap to get to your vision, right? So, and squirrel. The difference between a vision and a mission, a lot of people mix those up. So a vision is what you foresee in the future,
right?
Not necessarily the specifics about you or your business,
right?
But how you or your business affects the world at large. So so if your vision is to provide a world where everyone can listen to great marketing advice, then your mission might be to provide regularly published podcasts with engaging content to allow people to learn things that they wouldn't normally learn. That might be a mission.
But that's not a vision. But that's your intent.
Well, that's more of an intent. It's more of an internal,
right,
structural thing. And then vision is how that affects the world at large. So anyway, just to clear that up, let's get back from the squirrel. Oh, another squirrel.
Let's get back from the squirrel. Let's squirrel again.
No, I'm serious. My dog. We got this new dog. It's a Irish Doodle. So
I'm not like huge on dog breeds, so I don't
it's
really.
an Irish setter, standard poodle mix. She's beautiful. She's huge, black curly hair, and she's got some red tips on the end. And she's only one, but she's enormous. And she is so smart. She saw a squirrel one time, and now she knows where that squirrel's path is and what time of the day that squirrel goes where it goes.
So this is a real squirrel we're talking about.
This is a real squirrel, and my wife even bought one of those squirrel feeders with the corn cob that you screw in, and it's a dried corn cob with corn on it, and so we put it up in the tree behind our fence, and squirrels go up there and they eat it, and she just sits there like freaking Silence of the Lambs. I mean, she's just staring, mesmerized by this thing.
So my dog, I have a little Yorkie. She's about 10 pounds. Every time a squirrel jumps on our fence, she'll go berserk and wants to eat it.
Oh, yeah. Nuts. Okay, so back from the squirrels, plural. So strategy, okay. Your strategy is your roadmap for getting to your vision. And of course, the vision is the precursor to it. So the big thing about strategy is it has to be communicated to everybody involved properly and adequately. You have to communicate big time. Your vision, your strategy, their role in it.
They have to be pretty black and white, because I guess if you deviate from that, then your plan gets all jumbled and messed up. So once you formulate your vision, your mission, your strategy, stick to it.
Yes, exactly. That's implementation.
Yeah.
So during implementation is not a chance for you to make big changes. You can make small changes because, change is inevitable. One of the things that people need to understand about life these days is that change is daily, and just embrace it. So yeah, you might change your strategy along the way, but you're not going to drastically change it. And you're not necessarily going to communicate changes in people's roles all the time. Otherwise, they got other things to think about. They don't want to mess with it. But strategy, one of the things involved in strategy, like I said, is to make sure everybody knows what their role is in it. And there's a measurement called line of sight. And line of sight is basically you establish the end goal. You identify the strategy you're going to use. You identify beneficial activities to get to that, and then you determine a way to measure it. But you're also at the same time, you're doing like you do with a kid, where you're showing them something way off in the distance, where you like stand behind them and you put your arm in front with your finger pointing.
See that, kid?
And you say, look right through there, and so they follow your arm and they follow your finger off into the distance, and they finally see that target you're trying to point out to them. Line of sight is exactly what that is, and it puts a rifle scope on the target for the benefit of the person you're talking to. And so with line of sight, it's really a communication tool to help you tell people what your vision is and what their role is in getting there. And then between you and that target way off in the distance, you see that roadmap that we talked about. So yeah, that's number one. The second S is systems. And systems is really just the organizational structures like production control, the business infrastructure, things that employees use to achieve their goals and do their work every day. Systems really should align with the staffing and skills, which are two of the other things we'll talk about. But anyway, the systems are in place. They are, for the most part, static, and it's really a framework in which everyone works.
Yep.
So the third one is structure, and it's a little different than systems. Structure deals with the hierarchy, such as you have salespeople, and then you have a sales manager. You have regular staff, and then you have a staff supervisor, and it's really the hierarchical structure of the company and that chain of command, all of that. So it's important because it handles communication flow, and if it's done correctly, it's beneficial. If it's done incorrectly, then you don't get quite the benefit. The big thing about what's beneficial in structure is bi-directional communication.
Let me guess. So that's from employee to boss and boss back to employee.
Yeah, open dialogue.
Gotcha.
Back and forth without repercussion or retaliation or animosity and all the crap that you see. A lot of times, especially in older owned companies or older strategy companies, where they haven't really maybe embraced this idea that you can have an open two-way relationship with your employees. They're just sort of workers, and you tell them what to do and they do it, and they report back, but that's not really what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about an engagement.
A truly open dialogue where, like, if the employee sees something that could be improved or changed, they can voice that to their supervisor without repercussion.
Well, not just that they can, but the fact that the culture is such that they would want to,
yeah,
and that they feel fine about it, and even to the point where if the supervisor is doing something that isn't right or is kind of rubbing people the wrong way, then the subordinates feel encouraged to have a cordial, respectful conversation with their supervisor and say, I just wanted to tell you, away from everyone else, that I was offended by this, or that I think that this could be done better. I have the utmost respect for you, but these things I think could be done better. Yeah. And to be able to have that conversation is important. So structure is your chance to put in place a mechanism for that dialogue in your company. So the fourth one is skills. And that's all, with training and abilities. It's kind of how the company strategically aligns the abilities with others to complement each other, so that some person's work is not necessarily that big of an overlap for someone else's work, but they complement and work together. And it's up to you to kind of align skills in a way that you can get everything done and then think strategically about it. So if something happens to one of those cogs in the wheel, what happens to the whole wheel? So you may cross-train, but then the duties don't necessarily, you don't have people double.
Right.
They don't have double duty going on.
You make sure they know how to do it if they need to.
Right, but the actual roles don't overlap. The skills could, which is interesting. I mean, we do that a lot here at Empower Brokerage because everybody seems to be fairly well cross-trained to some extent. It depends on the person, but I can do just about everything except for commissions and contracting, and that's mainly from my past. But other people, team members, are trained to do emails and trained to do campaigns and all kinds of things. So we have a really good grasp on the skills array here. But anyway, it really should be skills training and skills development, skills assessment should definitely have a part in every single level of the company, all the way from staff to management, leadership training, efficiency training, HR, all the way up to the CEO, COO, and everyone should be striving to become better as a leader, better as a manager, better as a supervisor, better as an employee. Everyone should have the company should have this culture where everyone tries to get better.
Right.
No one is like, I'm the best there is and I'm not learning nothing. And there's not a whole lot of people like that anymore, but you'd be surprised. They're there. So the fifth one is style. And I'm not talking about 4-inch pumps.
That's what I was going to say. I'm interested to see what you have here. It's like,
Right. What kind of tie you wear, No, style is the behavior part of how the structure deals with each other. So how the leaders deal with employees and how they interact with each other.
so leadership style.
It's more of an personality style.
Gotcha.
It's a belief style. It's how you interact with the people around you in the organization, and most importantly, it's how you interact with your employees. So if you're a supervisor, it's your style and how you teach them, how you reprimand them, how you encourage them. For instance, my style with the team is one way, and of course someone else's is much different. I tend to be trusting. I tend to teach people things and then expect them to be done, but then I don't mind at all giving praise. And I also overlook things a lot because everybody's human. But if something's getting out of hand, I'll make a little comment. And for me, a little comment for other people might be an actual write-up.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a little comment just to let you know, hey, I've been noticing something.
Yeah.
So that's the style part. And style combines with another one we're going to talk about here to really create the organization's culture. So style is that part of the company culture. The next one, the sixth one, is called staffing, and that really deals with the people who work at the company. It's a human resources management thing. It's who you hire for what, your recruiting practices, how you train them, how you manage them, and it, like I said, it has some overlap with some of these other ones. But staffing is important because, for instance, a company might offer performance bonuses and another company doesn't. One company might recruit at job fairs and the other one uses agencies. So your staffing part is really your method for filling the roles needed in the company.
The only thing I would say about you, if you're using like a third-party staffing agency, you better have a good trust in them that they'll find the right people for you. Because I feel like that could get kind of hairy if they're, just hiring, this person is the first person we see, let's just give them this job.
Yeah, so your strategy for hiring the right people is part of it. And you're right. So like a third-party staffing agency, I'm going to squirrel a little bit, but it's really in line with what this is. So
Mini squirrel.
Mini squirrel. So anytime you're listening to the news or reading an article or listening to somebody about anything or taking advice from a staffing person or looking at a candidate that a staffing person brought you, all those situations, you've got to look at a couple of things. First of all, you got to look at what's their motivation for talking to you. What's the motivation for what they're saying and how they're saying it? Their slant on the realities of things. What is it? What's their goal? If their goal is to make money and they make money from you saying yes, or they make money from you watching, or they make money from you agreeing with them, or any money motivated thing like that, then you've got to be careful about who you're listening to and what you believe. So a staffing person, their goal is to place someone with you and they make money from it. They make a commission.
Right.
And a staffing person relies on commission for their income.
Yep.
It's not just a little bonus. It's their freaking income. So if they bring someone to you, your first question in your mind should be, is this person really a viable candidate?
Yeah.
Because this other person is a salesperson, and their job is to put that person with me.
That's what it is.
So it's just like listening to the news. What's the goal of that news? They're trying to stay relevant, first of all. They only stay relevant if they come up with something controversial to make you listen. And then so their goal is to create chaos and to make you listen. And then something else might be their goal is to sell something. So you always have to look at someone's intent and their motivation before you can trust them. And that's why I like the job fairs better. And I guess, maybe like Indeed or something. But mainly the job fairs. I mean, if you go to a job fair, anyone you talk to at the job fair was motivated to get off the couch and go to it, to talk to potential employers, and to present themselves in person. That's got to be a plus in my book.
Absolutely.
Indeed, you just upload your thing and you go back to gaming and eating Cheetos. But
that's how you hired me.
were you sitting in a beanbag chair?
Not a beanbag chair, a rocking chair.
A rocking chair eating Cheetos. So, anyway. All right. So the seventh one is shared values. And shared values mixed with style really equals the company culture. Shared values combines with style, and it creates everything you feel. When you walk into a company and you kind of feel how it is there, you get a feeling for it. That's shared values mixed with style.
Now, but that kind of goes back to the staffing too, where you have to make sure that the person you're bringing in shares those values, Because what if they have a different view on the world or a different view of what the company should look like?
Well, that's interesting you brought that up, because there's several different ways to look at that. Either you only want to live, in an area where everyone is like you and thinks like you, or you want to live in an environment where it's a rich culture of discourse.
Yeah.
Where people bring, America is a model for this, because America is a melting pot of all different cultures and belief systems and backgrounds and appearances and everything.
Yep.
So, and what makes America great is that we have this rich, diverse culture, and I think that trying to make everybody the same is dangerous.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work, and it's also not going to work to try to pit one difference against another, because then that tears the fabric of what America stands for all to pieces. And they do that for control anyway. I mean, really, for the most part, everybody in my neighborhood and everybody I've ever talked to gets along pretty well. And so this division stuff, it's all baiting, and it's all for the purpose of dividing, and it's all purpose of control. And like I said, motivation, you got to look at the motivation. The motivation of people stirring crap up is to remain relevant.
Yep.
And if everybody gets along, they're out of a job.
No question.
So I generally love everybody. I mean, everybody, in fact, when we go on vacation, I love going to where the tourists don't go. I like going to where the real food is, where the real crafts are, where the real people are, and it's not the people pandering to tourists. It's the real culture of where we are. And we went to Cozumel one time, and we kind of immersed ourselves in the culture, which was kind of sad. Cozumel is a highly depressed economy.
Yeah.
And they rely on tourism pretty much exclusively. And you've got families on mopeds with a baby in each arms. I mean, you got a husband and a wife and 2 babies on a moped, and they live in a shack it may only cost $5,000, but it's a 10 by 10 shack with cinder blocks and plywood roof.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of sad, but they're such gracious people. It was really heartwarming to interact with the real people, not the tourism. So yeah, shared values though. So going back to that, you don't have to hire people that only align with your beliefs, but you want to make sure that it's not going to create controversy. So you want to make sure they understand what the culture is, and you want to make sure that they're willing to work within that.
Right.
It's the most vital feature of the company is the culture, and it creates momentum. There's other things you could force it without the culture, but it's harder. So the culture, though, is not necessarily about the people you hire so much as what they participate in when they get there. So you're not necessarily talking about their personal belief systems, although that does come into play. You're more talking about the attitudes and the behaviors of the staff when they're there at your work, at your organization, and how they interact with each other. So it's their shared values. It's those parts of what they believe that are shared by others. So you don't necessarily pick out the things that people believe differently. You're picking out commonalities,
Right.
Reasons for coming together. So that's the glue that binds people together, is their common shared values, so that you can play up on those and create relationships and build rapport based on the things that you share in common. So that's more a nuance to that. So anyway, Squirrel. I was going to talk about something, and COVID. Okay, so.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Just real quick, they won't take long. COVID, unintended consequences. Every week I meet somebody. It's a marketing strategist, and we talk strategy, and so we meet for breakfast, and I haven't seen quite the layer of dust that I would normally see since COVID. Cleanliness is an unintended consequence because people are cleaning stuff.
Yeah.
You know that layer, that half-inch layer of dust on your piano teacher's kitchen counter?
I didn't do piano, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
or in the back of the drama room in high school, where no one ever cleaned. All those nooks and crannies now are spotless. So,
you're right. I mean, that is a positive.
Anyway. All right. Well, I think that's all the time we've got. This is Bill Bronson and Jeffrey Cooperstein for Squirrel Marketing, wishing you success and happiness.
See you next week.